Hi, my name is Sam Price, the Crypto Lifer, and every single Friday I give you a macro analysis video. I go over Bitcoin, the total market cap of all crypto. I go over the S&P futures, the NASDAQ, gold, and more. The DXY, find out what's going on with the dollar. Zoom out if you've been getting liquidated, if you've been trading great, either one, but you've been staying too zoomed in. Let's zoom out together, look at the macro, and find out where the probabilities are going to take us. So first thing I want to talk about is BTC. I like what I'm seeing here for Bitcoin as I move myself to the side. Bitcoin in a rising wedge. They do break down 68% of the time, okay? But this has a higher, a low, a high, a higher low. We're in an uptrend. The only thing I would assume, that bearish for Bitcoin is if we weren't able to get back above 119,000, if like 3 weekly candles or 4 just kept hitting resistance here, then it would like that we're making some type of head and shoulder pattern that would take 4 to 5 weeks, I believe, of like just rejection, and then we would roll over. However, if in the next 3 to 4 weeks we close a candle above 119,000, I just, even in the next 2 to 4 weeks, really, I just see how we're going to plow up, come down, and then eventually make our bigger move to the upside for Bitcoin. Now, this measure move is high and big and long, right? It would take the measured move here from that little low wick to this high wick, and then we position it the trajectory that we're following, and it's about $193,000 BTC here on the weekly. So on the macro, Bitcoin looks really, really good. It looks bullish. The only reason I would begin to get bearish for Bitcoin is if it began to ruin the trend. What to look at is here we have a high, a higher low, a higher high, a higher low, a higher high, a higher low, a higher high, a higher low. The trend says that the next move would be a higher high for Bitcoin and then a higher low. And this trend is basically, trends are in perpetuity. Basically, you believe the trend will keep going until finally something stops it. Like you would eventually have a rejection, you'd make an M, you'd come out, you take this low out, and then you take that low out. That's when you know this rally's over. You're going to see that eventually on a macro scale. That's going to be when I'm going to start telling you that the trend has changed and we need to really pay attention to a longer term bear market, right? But right now, still bullish for Bitcoin. Nothing has changed. And honestly, I even see a bounce here on the 1 hour 200 moving average. This is small time frame stuff, but just to show you kind of what's happening, a bounce here off the 1 hour 200 moving average. Very interesting. We just came to it right here and we're bouncing off of it. Look at that. If we can hold that to today, there's a chance we could close bullish. If we close below it, looks like we're in for some short-term bearishness. But on the bigger scale, we want to see this weekly candle close green. I wouldn't want to see it close as indecision doji like that. That's that's a shooting star. That can be bearish. I'd like it to break up and close with way more green than it has right now. So we're going to look for a pump really for the next in this weekend. We need a Bitcoin to kind of pump up, which is not likely. The weekend's pretty weak. So we'll see. And we'll monitor that situation. But right now on the macro, Bitcoin is bullish. And we don't have anything to fear right now, and I'll keep you posted. I live stream every day, Monday through Friday and Saturday and Sunday night. So you won't miss anything if you stick with me. Let's take a look at the total market cap. One thing I want to show you about the total market cap that has me excited. Bitcoin, if you remember, still could be making a head and shoulder pattern. It has like the shoulder, the head, and it has this like right here, right? But if you look at the uptrend here, we've actually made a higher high on total. We've already done that. And it tells me because Solana had all that movement and the new transactions per second. Good news, right? That goes with tech and big data. That's awesome, right? Which puts crypto in with tech, you know what I mean? And so when people get techie, crypto starts to say, hey, it's going to be the fastest way to move money around the world. Solana is actually faster than it ever was. How does that not put altcoins at the forefront? So this makes sense because total is the market cap of all the cryptos, all of them, everything. And so it's even the altcoins and Bitcoin. And you can see this is starting to show signs that it's stronger than the Bitcoin chart, which shows that altcoins are getting strong. That means Bitcoin dominance is losing. And altcoins actually could kind of steal the show as we start to get a bigger pump in the total market cap. So you see what I'm saying here? When we went over Bitcoin, we had shoulder, head, almost a right shoulder. Here, you clearly see we couldn't, that would never be a head and shoulder pattern. That's higher than that already. So this is showing signs of bullishness in the broader markets. And, we'll close hopefully a little more green on Saturday and we go a little more sideways. And it just says, hey, yeah, we have 1, 2, maybe 3 more weeks. And then Bitcoin is going, and the market's going to erupt somewhere. Pumptober, October 14th through the 20th. It looks like we may have a massive rally here in altcoins and BTC. And the total market cap looks very interesting. Let's go to total 3, which is the entire market cap of all of the, basically all of the altcoins, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is bullish, and actually it broke out today. Solana, or yesterday, we had a big pump, and that kind of solidifies. I see this thing starting to make a move. You can see Total 3 is now broken out. Total hasn't broken out yet. Total 3 has. So when I'm really keen on this, and I put it on the candle, I put them right on the candle closings. I don't use the wicks. That was a breakout. And again, I just like to see this close with a little more green. Same idea there for Bitcoin, and not be so bearish. And then we get the pump. Again, I was speculating on how big we could get and where we're going to go and all that. But right now, I see this as the beginning leg of our next big move. It says, like, if you're not loaded up, you may miss out in 2, 3, 4 weeks because prices will be here, and then you're going to be chasing, and then it's going to come down. And people get wrecked in the pump because they expect it to happen when it doesn't, and then they chase it when it does, instead of just getting ready no matter what and having a plan. All right, but that's the total market cap of all of the cryptocurrencies, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And as you can see, it's above this resistance. It's starting its way up. That's its first leg to the upside. We'll keep it monitored if it has a bearish candle or anything, or some, tweezer tops. But right now, that looks very bullish on the weekly for Total 3. I like to look at Bitcoin dominance. I want to make sure it's still trending lower, right? And it tells me it should. It shall, right? And remember, we talked about it here as it fell down. We gave you the flag on the 1 hour as it continued to dump. It actually made this flag. It didn't fill out the flag. It even dumped earlier than that. And I see it in another flag here now too, just doing the same thing on the 1 hour time frame. Basically, I see this going to the next stop, just like this. Sideways and then flagging further to the downside. Nobody wants to be in Tether. It's not a good time to be in. It's high risk to be in a dollar-backed asset right now. It's risk on. You want to be in something like Bitcoin. They're going to put a bunch of money into the market. So this is showing like this would be a shoulder. This would be a head. It might even be a right shoulder there and dump. Let me show you what I say there because I say it so fast. But you can see like shoulder, a bit of a head, kind of right, and that starts to dump, And so I see more bearishness. You zoom out and look at that daily, and you've been below the 200 moving average on the daily for a long, long time. That's very bearish. And you just lost the 3-day, and the 21's coming. If we flip that upside down, that's how we trade bullishly, right? We trade a flag, we wait for the 21 to come, and then we position ourselves as such for a continuation. This looks the same way, but for the bears when it comes to the total market cap. So it seems like more downside here is coming for Bitcoin dominance, and that's really, really good for the altcoins. And then we want to look at Tether dominance. That should also be falling off a cliff, which it has been. And now, look, you see it's attempting to make an inverted head and shoulder, but to me, it's more of a symmetrical triangle. And even if it bumps up a little bit, I see it eventually breaking down. Again, anything could happen. Maybe it makes a right shoulder and pumps, and we get a black swan. But right now, it looks like it's going to continue down, go up a little bit more, and then roll over. It's very unlikely I see it pumping past that 200 moving average. And it looks, to me, it's in a downtrend. It's made, and it would have to break this high here at 4.53, right? Higher high, higher low, and break out the trend. And this is where I would be cautious about altcoins. But as long as it stays low and then starts to roll over, I really see no issues for Tether dominance. So, in our case, we want it to continue to dump. So, and then remember, the bigger picture is it's in this huge descending triangle, which looks like it's only going to get tighter and then absolutely fall off a cliff, which means we might have, if that happens, we would have an alt season of alt seasons all the way to June of 2026, and it would be an extended cycle, which it's maybe what we're in for. There have been talks of it. Anything is possible. I'm open-minded, right? With that being said, I like to segue into the DXY off of Tether dominance. They're not exactly the same. They're going to correlate 80 to 90% of the time, though. The DXY looking nasty, right? Shoulder, head, shoulder, getting the dump. A little bit of a bounce, okay? A little bit of a bounce, but to me, pretty strange on that 3-day. Attempting to double bottom. Show some signs of life here. Let's look at the daily. It's attempting a double bottom here. It's attempting to show some signs of life, but to me, staying below that 200 moving average, kind of head and shouldery, and even getting that roll over idea, it just looks more bearish to me than it should. What I see is this. I see a bigger descending triangle, see? So look for it to kind of get a bounce, stay inside that little mini chamber, but eventually just fall out of the range. So this is my prediction for the DXY. It did double bottom, but look for it to get rejected, go tight, and then lose that double bottom down to 5.57. Yeah. Gold, baby, gold. We talked about gold and showed you how strong gold was. Gold with this beautiful pump to the upside out this tight channel. Absolutely lovely. Look at that tightness. And I see gold continuing. You know, if you really want to get into gold, I'd say you're going to get like a few more days of sell. The whole market looks like we got consult. Everyone's gearing up to get their money ready. So they're going to use their algos to balance the price action is what they're telling me. Up and down, up and down, up and down, while they get more money ready for the market. So they can buy at the perfect time to pump their bags and exit, you know. And gold's doing the same thing as the DXY is starting to collapse. I see $4,000 an ounce for gold as it continues its move to the upside and hit my target at 3,800, which is oh so close. We take a look at the S&P future. We talked about how it was going to break out from here. I even gave you the absolute trade. This is absurd, right? And look, today is the 19th. We talked about this on the 12th, okay, which was right here. All right, right when we were starting to break out, and I said, look for this. I said they're going to continue to print money. I said that's your entry right there, stop loss there. I said we have another trade on our hands, up to 69.49, and we're halfway there almost for my target to the upside. And you can see I said this last week, and you could have taken the trade last week on the S&P and have been up. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ E-mini futures. Same story, morning glory. The idea that I gave last around the 12th here was that this daily flag was going to break out. We did trade it. It continued to pump. I went in and out a few times. It's hard for me to hold, but it's telling me that this is, if we just stick to the daily and hold this trade, it's headed to 26,600. And so far, so good. We called this pump for you on the NASDAQ last week. I was very bullish. I think I was doing other things on this chart today, so it ended up deleted on the live stream. But bang, I see this thing continuing to pump. You look for the little flag again on the 4 of the daily, and this thing's just going to move to 26,600. All-time highs for the NASDAQ as we speak, as it hits my target at 24,800 that I discussed it would. Pretty crazy, man, for the NASDAQ. So all's well that ends well. Look at Solana BTC. Sol continuing to beat up on Bitcoin. I see it going sideways and then getting a pump. The Alpenglow upgrade gave it 100 to 100 millisecond transactions per millisecond, which is a 100x from where it was before. That's a big deal. And as it gets implemented, it can really start to roll out at a mass scale and really change Web3 evolutionary. So Solana beating up on Bitcoin shows that altcoins are still in charge. Ethereum beating up on Bitcoin, not as much. Ethereum struggling a little bit, right? Ethereum with not the throughput. So I see it still going sideways and pumping, but it's not as having, Sol, Bitcoin and Sol ETH. Look at Sol Ethereum also beating up. If you're looking to make gains on Sol ETH, or if you have ETH and you think I'll flip into Sol, right? Because Sol will make you money on ETH. You're just looking for this flag on that daily. You're looking for the 21 to catch up the price. And then you're looking for that measured move somewhere up there to about, I'd say, 6675, right? So that's it. I want to make sure we covered it all. We went over Bitcoin, all right? We went over Bitcoin dominance, Tether dominance, the DXY, all right? We also went over the S&P futures, the NASDAQ, gold, Sol ETH, and Sol BTC. This gives you a really good picture of where the market's going and where we're headed. We also looked at total and total 3, right? So I'm pretty confident that we're going to continue to go up as I predicted last week with the projections that we made on this macro analysis. Keep coming back every single week to get the skinny of what's happening in the markets. And I really appreciate you watching this. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. You can find out when I post my next video. Remember, if you came to the channel, then you're already doing the right thing. Crypto is life.